The pick is in for the Pittsburgh Steelers' first round 3 selection at number 84. They've selected wide receiver Roman Wilson out of Michigan. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they addressed their top 3 needs in their first 3 picks in this year's draft so far. The first round, they obviously went with offense tackle. Second round, they went with center. And now they address wide receiver. After trading Deontay Johnson to the Carolina Panthers, it left a massive hole at the wide receiver spot, and we just knew the Steelers were going to select a wide receiver early in this year's draft, and they get the wide receiver that they want out of Michigan, Roman Wilson. So, looking at Roman Wilson, he stands at 5'11". He weighs 185 pounds, his arm length being 30 3/8 inches, his hand size 9 3/8 inches, and also he runs a 4.39 yard 40-yard dash time. So, looking at Roman Wilson's accomplishments throughout his career, he made all Big Ten second team in 2023. He was Reese's Senior Bowl mid-season All-American in 2023. And also, he clocked a 4.37 yard 40-yard dash time apparently in his pro day. So Roman Wilson, he is a movement receiver. He plays bigger than what his frame tells and shows, and he brings toughness and speed to any offense. And more than likely, he would be the Steelers slot receiver, but he can play outside as well. So looking at Roman Wilson's strengths and what he does well on the football field and what he would bring to the Pittsburgh Steelers, he brings that leadership, that toughness, and that field stretching speed, but also is strong and reliable with his hands as well. Some of the concerns, however, in his game is his yards after catch. He really does not do much there, and kind of his elusiveness as well, and kind of his limited route tree that he ran. He didn't run too many different routes. It was more of the same stuff in Michigan. So looking at Roman Wilson, he brings open field speed. Yes, his elusiveness might not be there. His yards after catch might not be there, but he brings that open field speed to the offense in terms of creating separation on his routes and things like that. He is alignment flexible. He takes snaps in the slot, and he took many snaps as well on the outside at the Z position. So just looking at the reason why I said more than likely he would be a slot receiver is mainly because of his size, but obviously the Steelers still have Kwon Alexander who could do that slot, and he also played outside in college as well. So it's kind of up in the air on where Roman Wilson will be used. I guess we'll see when it comes to preseason and the regular season, but Roman Wilson, he is alignment flexible. Wilson does his best work when aligned in the slot or in tighter formations though. He does a good job kind of alerting his route tempos and to navigate in the middle of the field, find the soft spot in his zone defense, or just finding the open spot in the man defense, getting open on his route tree in terms of creating separation. He will run his defender through traffic to kind of free himself up, meaning that using his wide receivers or the other defenders on the field as kind of legal picks, not the illegal ones, but legal picks to free himself up. And he also uses timing and route depth, and that just means he's a very high IQ player. He just knows how to get open, and that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers need. His speed is something that he uses to set up his routes. Shallow crossers, deep overs, in and out breakers are a consistent part of his route tree. Other than that, he really doesn't do much in terms of his route tree. Those are the main routes he runs. Wilson has a reliable and kind of secure hands in terms of whenever the ball hits his hands, more than likely he's going to come up with it and it's going to be a catch. He plucks the ball away from his frame better than most smaller frame wide receivers like him. Usually smaller receivers with his type of frame don't do well in that area, but he does. He's able to catch the ball out of his frame and just be a reliable target for his quarterback. So those are the things he does well. But looking at things that he may not do as well is he's not really an elusive player with the football in his hands in terms of creating after the catch. He's more of a straight line fast type of player. You know how there's some players who they could cut really well and kind of break away speed in terms of after the catch. He's more of a straight line type of runner in terms of speed. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you're looking at Wilson and his stats and his yards after catch. He only averaged 5.2 yards after catch per reception for his career in college. And the reason you may think, okay, that's a decent amount, but usually college compared to the NFL, the yards after catch are different because it's much easier to get open in college, and it seems like if the offense is there more often than not, and there's more space to run in college than the NFL. So only 5.2 yards per catch per yards after catch is not that great. He rarely has to deal with press coverage though, and that kind of leaves a question mark on his release package when challenged consistently. It's going to be up in the air to see what he does when being pressed. Usually people play off of him. There's not many film kind of looks where people are pressing him, so we have to see what he could do in that type of defensive scheme that people do against him. Also, Wilson, like I said, he projects as a slot receiver who can kind of thrive in short and intermediate areas of the field. He has the potential to become a chain mover for an offense in terms of that reliable target, like the Hunter Renfrow, for example, from the Raiders. Someone who could be a reliable target and play within the offense. He does well in the tight alignment type of areas with his short end speed and his high end placement of catches, and Wilson had to make the defense respect his ability to generate big plays in the passing game. That's what separates him, because he can catch the ball at a high level, so he can get open as well, and he could just be a reliable player, and that's why the defenses have to respect. So looking at that wide receiver, Roman Wilson, it's a really nice selection for them. I know it might not have been a top option available in terms of other wide receivers on the board that went earlier, but out of the wide receivers remaining, this is really the only option the Pittsburgh Steelers had at the wide receiver spot if they wanted to address it. And obviously they did, addressing it now with this pick. They could have addressed it earlier, got A.D. Mitchell in the second round instead of Zach Frazier, but we've seen how that worked out in years prior when we selected Pat Freiermuth instead of a center like Creed Humphrey, for example. Creed Humphrey is now one of the best centers in the league, so sometimes you have to pick a position based off of what you think they're going to do in the future rather than just fill a need. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, now with this pick, they fill a need, and now they no longer have any more needs on the roster in terms of must-have. They addressed all three of them in their first three selections. And now the Steelers wide receiver corps, they look like this: George Pickens, Roman Wilson, Kelvin Austin, they brought in Van Jefferson, they brought in Quez Watkins, and there's some other players who are more type of practice squad type of guys, and they also brought in Marquise Callaway from the Saints as well. So now those are the wide receiver room. More than likely, there's going to be another move at the wide receiver spot. Whether it's trade, whether it's undrafted guys being brought in, free agency signings, or another drafted player, more than likely there'll still be another move at the wide receiver spot, I believe. But as of right now, that's the wide receiver room as we stand right now. So with that being said, that's the end of this video. That's kind of the breakdown on what Roman Wilson will provide the Pittsburgh Steelers. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comments about this pick. Do you like this pick? Do you not like this pick? What do you think Roman Wilson will provide to the Pittsburgh Steelers? What do you think he does well? Is there other players on the board that you would have selected before him at the wide receiver spot or just a different position? And who do you think we'll also pick with our next third round selection coming up here in a bit? Also, before you click off of this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel for everything Pittsburgh Steelers draft coverage. I covered every player we selected so far. Draft profiles up on the channel about them, what they'll bring to the team, and I'll continue to do so with every player we select and undrafted guys as well. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and until the next video coming up here in a little bit, I'm out. Peace.